Hi there, crafty friends. Welcome and thank you for joining me. Today we are going to make a card using Altenew's Capture Memories layering die set. This is a 7-piece die set. You have 6 dies for the camera, and then you have your film. And I know I say this about everything, but I just fell in love with this camera when I saw it. So we will be using that, along with a whole bunch of flowers that I used cutting this die a couple weeks ago. I didn't do any more because I still have so many left over. And then we will also be using this die, and I am only using it for the larger leaves. I didn't want to use that small greenery that we had last time, so I'm only using it for the larger leaves. And then we also have our sentiment from You Make Me Smile sentiments from Spellbinders. This is a fantastic set. You get these sentiments. It looks good on you. It's your special day. It's the best medicine. It's your birthday. You make me. And we are using 2 of the dies. There are actually 2 layering dies that go behind your sentiment, but I'm only using 1. So let's go ahead and get started. I've got my plates here. I've got all my paper cut. So we are using black, brown, and a matte silver. So you've got 2 pieces here for the top portion of your camera, and the black one needs to be the one with the little keyhole mark on there. And then we've got a silver piece. And then our main camera piece is also out of black. And then we've got 2 pieces here for the lens. The one that does the outside rim, I am doing in matte silver. And then the inside of the lens, I am doing in black. So let me get those cut. So all our pieces are cut. We can go ahead and assemble. We're just gluing these together. In case you don't already know, everything used today will be listed and linked in the description below. And I am just centering this. Please be sure to give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. I got a little bit of glue on there I want to get off. And then we have 2 pieces here that look very identical. Actually, they go this way. We have our black one and our silver, and they have this little keyhole special marking in their dies. But I'm kind of not going to pay attention to that because this piece is just basically a layering piece. So let's add our silver piece to that. And this black piece, it really just gives us a little bit more dimension. So now we can add this to our camera base. And there are little marks in our die here. There are little etching marks, so you can see right where this needs to lay. And that is my dishwasher. I'm not sure if you heard that or not, but the dishes are done. So we're just going to center that and get that right in those markings. Then we can add our brown piece. And the brown piece just butts right up to that bottom. And then you've got a nice little margin in there between your brown and your silver piece. So then for my lens, I am going to bring in some thin foam dots because I want my lens to stick up a little bit. I want it to have dimension and appear like a real lens. So we're adding some foam squares to the back of that. Now we've got our foam squares on there, and I am just going to center this right around that lens. And our camera is done. That was so quick and easy. I love that. And I love that added dimension. So it really looks like a lens. Let's put this aside and work on our background. For our background, I am using the Modern Leaf background press plate. And I've already got that placed on my Better Press. And we're just going to give it a little inking. And I am using regular paper. I just want a light coating of ink on here. I don't want it real dark for my background. Just a nice light coating of ink. And I used Pink Fresh Pear for that. I have my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 panel here. I'm sorry, this is 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm just going to place that right on top. I'm not even going to tape it to my top plate there. I don't know if it's the platen or the chase. And then just to give my image a little dimension, I am going to use a couple shims here. I've got 3 pieces of regular cardstock. I'm just going to lay those right on top, bring in my plate, and we're going to run that through the Platinum 6. And let's take a look and see what we got here. Remove those shims. Then we can remove our background piece. And that is perfect. This area will probably be covered, so we don't have to worry about that. But because we added a couple shims in there with our regular paper, we did get a little bit of the impressed detail. So that is pretty cool. Of course, it would work better with the cotton paper, but I thought we would just use the regular hammer mill today. So we've got our background done. We can set that aside. Actually, we'll need that. And let's bring in all of our flowers and our leaves. So all of my flowers, like I said, are leftovers from our other video that we did 2 weeks ago. I just used 3 of the dies from that Spellbinders die. It will be listed in the description below. And then for my film, I cut that 3 times from black and stacked that. And then I found online, I just Googled free flower images, and I found an image that I liked. And we're just going to take that film die and we're just going to place it anywhere that we think it might look pretty. And we're going to run the die through our machine. And because I did just use regular printer paper for that, my image did curl a little bit, but we're not going to use that part. We are going to use the inside that came out. So we're just going to use those pieces that go right in there. Let's do that first. So for this, I'm just going to take a little piece of double-sided tape, and we are just going to put a little bit of that across the back of our image here. Just like that. We can trim that off. And then we are going to make sure that that is stuck to the inside of our film. Oh, don't flip that over yet. So now we can put in our images. And these are, I've got to figure out which order they went in. We can just pop in our images just like that, and that will be perfect. Now it looks like we've actually got pictures on that film. And isn't that cute? Now we can set this aside and we can work on our background. So I've got several of these larger leaves that I cut out. And we're just going to figure out how we want to arrange these. I'm going to use 2 different colors. So I fussed and fiddled with that for a little bit. I think I've got it how I want it. I've got 2 of the darker greens and 1 light green. Then on the bottom, I've got 2 light greens and 1 dark green. And now we're going to bring in our glue. And I made sure not to let the leaves hang over the edge too far. I'm going to pick this up with my tweezers, and we're going to add some glue. That one fell out. Let's just make sure that still looks good. That's good. And we're just going to add some glue to those back bottom pieces so they don't go anywhere. I think that's good. Just push those down. They will dry really quickly. Then we can do the same thing with our bottom leaves. Pick that up and add some glue. And you want to make sure you get a couple leaves from each section of leaves. And we can move that before that glue dries if we need to. Now that our leaves are attached, we can actually come in here. Oh, let's add another little bit of glue behind this leaf here, just to make sure it stays. So now we can come in and trim off those stems. We don't need all that extra bulk in there. So let's just trim off those stems, and that's a little bit better. So now let's bring in our camera. We're going to figure out where we want that positioned. We've got our film here. And then we need to also bring in our sentiment. So my sentiment I did from that Spellbinders set. I did one black layer for the outline, and then I've got 3 white in the smile. And we know that that is going to go up here at the top. So we just need to kind of look at it and figure out how far down we want our camera. Our sub-sentiment, I white heat embossed on black, and I've got that ready. And I know that's going to come down here at the bottom. So we just want to make sure that our spacing is good. So let's go ahead and get our smile sentiment on that first. And I am going to use foam dots for this. So now we can attach our smile sentiment. I think that looks pretty straight, but I am going to bring in my ruler. And I think that's good. We can nudge our smile down just a little bit, get that stuck in place. Now we can take a look at our film. We will be cutting some of this off because I want that to lay flat underneath our camera. So let's take a look at that. And I think if we cut it off right about here, that should be good. We can look at it again, and I think that's going to be perfect. So let's get some glue behind that. I will be taking this release paper off and then adding glue. That's all ready. Then we can bring our film back in, and we're just going to place that underneath our camera. And I love that we've got our black and white flowers in there. So let's add some foam squares behind our camera. So we've got foam squares on the back of that. Let's go ahead and get this placed. And I am just looking from side to side to make sure that I am somewhat centered. That looks good. Then we can bring in our flowers and some more leaves. Let's see, I'm just going to add, I don't know which colors I want to use. Do we want to go with pinks or yellows or peach? I think we'll have a big one down here. So I think I am liking that placement for my flowers. I've got foam squares behind all of those, and we're just going to fluff those and get those attached. And for this pink one here, I am placing that just right on top of that film. Now we can come in with our leaves. Let's get some leaves behind those little flowers. And I'm not doing too many. I'm just going to do a few behind each flower. I think that's looking good. We can add those directly to our panel, and I'm just putting a little bit of glue behind those just so they stick. And if you need to, you can give your little leaves just a little trim. I think this one will fit in there better with just a little trim like that. Add a little glue and get that placed under there. Now we can take another look and see if we need any more leaves anywhere else. So I was unsure of this area here. I wasn't sure how I felt about those stems being open. So we can bring in some leaves and just place those down there. Let's give it a little trim. Add a little bit of glue. And then we can just place that one down there to cover up that mess a little bit. We can add another if we want to, right in there. Let's do a light one. I think that's good. Just a couple little leaves in there to cover that up. Now we can add our sentiment. That looks nice and straight. Now we need to get some foam tape behind this panel. I've got my card base here, foam tape behind our panel. We're just going to center that. And I didn't do too bad. It looks like my leaves are hanging over just a little bit, but not too bad. And then what I want to do here is I want these leaves to stick up a little bit. So I am going to bring in a little bit of our thin foam squares, get that release paper off, and I am just going to stick that behind that leaf right there for extra dimension. And I am going to do that on all of the leaves that are hanging off of the edge. And that is so cute. All we need to do now is add our embellishments. And for that, I am using Pink Fresh Studio Clear Drops in Leaf. So now at this point, I've got my clear drops on there. We could decide to add a color on top of our smile, and it gives it a whole different look. I cut out smile in these same colors that we did our flowers, and I don't know. I like it, but it's not necessarily a favorite, although the pink looks good because it plays off of our light pink in the corner. I'm not going to on this one, but that is so cute. I just love how that came out. Smile, it looks good on you. And then I've also got one here. I have a friend that is having surgery in a couple weeks, and I wanted to make a card for her. So I've got Smile, it's the best medicine. And what I did here was, instead of using the flowers that I die cut there, I printed out a picture of her and her husband, and I stuck that in the film. And I think that is so cute. I think these came out great. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Please give me a thumbs up. Please leave me a comment, and I will see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.